Hello. Are you just joining this broadcast? It's about Tinubu. Remember the book Beating All Odds? That is what we are breaking down. How did Tinubu beat all the odds to emerge as the president of Nigeria? And this is a book written by Sam Omatseye. It's about Tinubu, articles, update on what happened during the election, before the elections. So in this work, you would understand the politics of the APC and the politics towards the 2023 presidential election. Was Osinbajo a headache to Tinubu?
If it was a headache, I don't think he showed it. You could see that Osinbajo did not do very well in the primaries. The thing about Osinbajo was the moral question. It was that Osinbajo was the person that Tinubu, let's say, recommended to be vice president under Buhari. So it was Tinubu's pick. For him to run against the man who picked him became some form of a moral problem for his candidacy. So that was what it was. I don't think he was bothered about his capacity for political engineering and structure. He knows him very well. So he was not even afraid of his capacity to even fight him.
He knew he was going to defeat him with ease.
He was going to defeat him, yes.
He knew?
He knew.
So what encouraged Osinbajo?
If you see Osinbajo, you may have to ask him. Because you knew that Buhari was not for you. And Buhari made it very clear it was not for him. Some people probably deceived him that he had some supporters. Because I saw some of his supporters all over the place, writing and over social media, thumping up support for Osinbajo. And people were wondering whether he had some kind of joker, around the country. He himself went around, he had some people who went around for him. And he had some people who were really noisy about his capacity to win and to govern the country. So you have to ask him how he got that. My own sense of my investigation into it was that some people exploited him. Some people took advantage of his own naivety. He's not really a politician. He's a good lawyer, and a good activist. But he's not really a politician. His ticket to politics was through Asiwaju, who was a law teacher. His ticket to politics was through Asiwaju, who made him Attorney General in Lagos when he was governor. And he grew on Asiwaju's wings.
Who is a politician?
Well, a politician is somebody who knows how to organize men for governance and for election.
How do you organize men from your experience?
You organize men by, one, having a vision of men, and having a vision of governance, having a vision of organizing people for particular purposes in government and in society.
And Osinbajo didn't have that.
Yeah, he didn't have that acumen.
So he needed a structure to ride on.
He needed a structure to ride on. He didn't have. He was building it late.
Tinubu already had his structure.
Tinubu not only had the structure, he had the strategy. He had the instinct. The instinct is very important. Instinct for politics is probably more important than any kind of wisdom. He has the instinct for politics. He has an understanding of men and the mobilization of resources. He also has, as I said earlier, an instinct for time and timing. He had all of that. And then you can also say he has that factor that people don't talk about, which is the working of divinity in the affairs of men. Some people call it luck. Some people call it, the law of averages, working in somebody's favor. But you must have all of that going for you. If you don't, you'll just be riding on waters that take you anywhere they will.
You've not mentioned financial power.
Financial power is important. Financial power is not everything in politics. People tend to think that financial power is everything in politics. Money is good. The Bible says, money answereth all things. But when it says money answereth all things, it also said money is the root of all evil. So you should know that when money gets to become the root of all evil, it will not get you where you are going to. So you use the money to an extent, and then you get other things. You need to organize men. You need to get an instinctive understanding or even support from people around you. People have to like you. There's also the factor called charisma, which is soft power. With the Harvard professor Joseph Nye called soft power, came with the concept of soft power, which is something that you do not hold, which is sometimes more powerful than hard power.
Tinubu has the charisma.
Soft power, he has the charisma, he has the soft power, the instinct, the understanding of men. You can get somebody who is huge and powerful, has a very stentorian voice, and then has somebody who has the voice of a bird. But there's more energy in the voice of a bird than that lion.
The energy comes in the...
It's a charisma. It's that force of character, the will to do.
Does Tinubu have people who think for him?
Let me put it this way.
And are you one of the thinkers?
Tinubu has people he can use as sounding boards. But Tinubu thinks for Tinubu. The Tinubu I know, nobody thinks for. That's why he reads.
He reads.
He reads. He debates. He listens before he takes a decision. But when he has made the decision, it's like what do they call him? Former president of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, said when he came up with the Declaration, the Emancipation Declaration. He said it took a long time to take that decision. But when I decide, I don't go back. It's very hard for Tinubu to, especially when it's a very strategic issue. When he has decided, he's going to swim and die on that decision. And he goes there, and sometimes the associates, they say, why did he take this decision? People like him take decisions like that. Like Nixon said in his memoirs, he said, the only way, the way to know a tough leader is for him to take a tough decision and get his associates to work with him along those tough decisions. He's that kind of person. If it is economy, he understands the economy a lot because he's a graduate of accounting. So he knows a lot about economy, and he worked in the economy to the highest level.
Is he a graduate?
He's a graduate of Chicago State. All those things were debated during the elections.
But you know it's controversial.
Well, it was controversial because people made it controversial. Because the university itself said...
You quoted about that in some of your work.
Yes, I said so. I said, people make it controversial because they want to make it controversial. Remember Jesus Christ. If you read John chapter 8, John chapter 9, even up to 10, when Jesus Christ was doing miracles, especially when he healed the blind man, and the Jews were trying to cast the blind man out because they wanted to deny that this man who we all know has been with us here as a blind man can now see. So they asked him, are you sure it was this man that turned you from a blind man? They even asked the parents. The parents even wanted to deny because they are afraid of the Pharisees who were trying to come after them. Then he said, well, all I know is that I was blind. Now I can see. So they wanted to cast him out. So even Jesus Christ had to go and meet him. Say, I was the one. Because he didn't see the person who healed him. He just put the what do you call it? The earth on his eyes. And he said, go to Siloam. Go and wash yourself. He had to wash himself and get his sight. But Jesus was not with him when he was getting his sight. So when he was seeing and everybody saw it, they were trying to ask, who is this person who did this to you? He said, Jesus. They wanted him to deny it. So we can deny what we see. He says so. He said those people, when they see the light, they will not accept that it is light.
But there was this talk of so much discrepancies about the schools, secondary schools he went to, his year of birth.
Yes. Those were questions that were asked at that time.
Yeah.
And it was clarified. In those days, my father did not attend a formal secondary school. My father did a lot of his school by correspondence. So there were mix-ups about certification in those days. If you were in the 60s, I think Festus Keyamo was able to explain this better at that time. So when they finished that, they went to the issue of Chicago. Chicago State said, the man graduated from us. In fact, they had a ready answer for everybody. Some newspapers were trying to be mischievous. When they will call them. They said, oh, is it about Bola Tinubu we're asking? You are calling? Okay, we have the answer because they had gotten a bombardment of calls. Everybody wanted to prove that, it was lying. But each call confirmed that he went to Chicago State University.
Some would say...
Even his classmates came out to say, look, we were together in school.
Mr. Sam Omatseye,
yes.
Some would say if the Supreme Court had accepted the evidence that Atiku brought before it, something would have happened.
That is speculative.
If the Supreme Court had accepted that evidence.
What evidence? He didn't really have evidence.
He came with an evidence that the Supreme Court did not accept.
What was the evidence? That he didn't attend Chicago State University?
That perhaps the person that went to Chicago State University was not this Tinubu?
No. Who was he? Did he produce the person?
The issue of drugs.
The issue of drugs was proved by even the United States government said there was no such story. If the government says there's no such story, why are you wiser than the government that said there was no such thing?
No, there was forfeiture. Was there no forfeiture?
There was story of forfeiture.
Yeah.
There was story of forfeiture, but it didn't mean that it was there.
And the forfeiture had to do with drugs, right?
No, it didn't say so. It didn't say it had to do with drugs. The story of forfeiture was on a different story. I'm not very familiar with that part of it, but it had nothing to do with drugs. Because the real issue of drugs was raised even when he was a candidate for governorship. And that was raised to the United States government. And the United States government said he has never been held, he has never been convicted, QED. But, they were using that to divert attention from their own. Like Atiku, people didn't ask Atiku about the certification. Peter Obi, about his certification, about the discrepancy between his certification and his year of graduation and his secondary school and his year of graduation. So there are questions. But people didn't want to listen to that. It was because they didn't want Tinubu. So they wanted him. They wanted to look for a way to nail him.
So can I describe Tinubu as the good, the bad, the ugly?
It's the good that many people want to see as bad and ugly.
The good, that many people want to see
as bad and ugly.
When many people want to see you as bad and ugly, something must be wrong somewhere.
Yes, maybe with those people who said, not the majority, because you know that he won the election. So you can talk about some set of people who want to see him as bad and ugly.
So he's a good guy.
He's a good guy. He has his own flaws as a human being, as we all do. Remember when the adulterer came to Jesus and they wanted to kill him, then Jesus was writing on the floor. He said, he who has no sin cast the first stone. They didn't. Huh? Atiku had his own stone, his own. They didn't cast any stone at him. They didn't want to cast any stone at him. They didn't want to cast any stone at Obi, but they wanted to cast stone at Tinubu.
It seems you were not happy with the media.
Yes.
During that electioneering.
Indeed.
Why?
Because they were in a gang-up against the president.
A gang-up?
Yes, it was a gang-up. I think the media needs to go back and do an introspection about its role during the 2023 elections. Because there are only two papers, only one paper, or let me say two, one mildly, supported the president. The Nation newspaper and the Daily Trust didn't support but didn't stand in his way, during the election. The rest of the media were unabashedly anti-Tinubu. From the headlines, from the editorials, from commentary, and you could see it both online and hard copy.
So let's read from your book.
Okay.
Let's read from page 25 of Sam Omatseye's book, Beating All Odds, Diary and Essays on how Bola Tinubu became president. On page 25, he says, the rally in Jos was the highlight of the week from the point of view of the APC. But for most Nigerians, it was the question of Arise News and the broadcast of fake news about Tinubu and a drug allegation. The broadcast outlet that has shown an aggressive and adversarial approach to the APC candidate was caught napping. It had to apologize, if in a tame language. It also paid a fine. It became a butt of jokes in the social media and reference point for fiction as news. Here you continually took on Arise television and This Day. Why did you focus on them?
At that moment, they were the ones in the vanguard, as it were, of this anti-Tinubu barrage. At that moment, they were.
You said its sister print outfit, This Day newspaper, took professionalism to a sour point.
Yes. It was very clear. They are my friends there. Well, I had to say it.
You had to say it.
That was my diary you're reading from.
Yes. I'm reading your diary.
Yes.
Because I saw an angry Otto.
Yes.
Asking why.
Why, exactly.
At some point, you even mentioned Punch.
Yes. Punch was also adversarial.
So when this traditional media outfit did not support Tinubu, was there something wrong with Tinubu that you were not seeing?
If there was something wrong, the election showed that there was not something wrong with the majority of those who voted for him.